Greetings, everyone. On Thursday, I spoke about Haggai and shared the verses around consider your ways. And I always love it when we can find 2 or 3 references to introspection. And there are many, many more passages about introspection and self-awareness. But this one in Habakkuk, I really appreciate because we're very familiar with Habakkuk 2. So I'm going to read that. Let me pull it up on my phone. Habakkuk 2. All right. So he says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Now, I'm going to go back and read from chapter 1 in just a moment to set the scene, because it's important for you to understand that possibly, most likely, a state of meditation or introspection was happening for Habakkuk at this time, right? And so we're familiar with, let me read verse 2 and 3. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And we often use this as far as writing visions or writing down a plan. But during this time of introspection, you should really understand that you should be writing as well. And I had encouraged us that when you're doing introspection, that you not only, when you acknowledge or you hear the Father talk to you about areas that need to be corrected, that you are also listening for the solution, right? Don't just stop listening to him after he points out something to you, but listen to him for the solution and the plan. And that is going to be something that you're going to need to write down. So it's always good to, let's take in context what's really happening for Habakkuk here. So let's go back to chapter 1. Habakkuk's very small, it's only 3 chapters. So in this first chapter, this first verse tells us a lot. The burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. Now, the word see here is used in many other places in scripture, but it doesn't mean to just see like, I see that pen on the table. It means to meditate, to contemplate, to be in meditation. And the burden is often used very heavily in Numbers, but it's used around the priests understanding what their responsibility is. And isn't that what happens in introspection, in when we are meditating or thinking about our life, the path that it's going? We are often looking at what are our responsibilities, right? And so Habakkuk is looking for his responsibility. He's in a place where he is waiting to hear from ELOHIM, to speak to him. And so he begins this conversation with him, like there's nobody else there. So he's not standing in front of the people of Israel. He's by himself. So he's having this conversation. And he says, oh Lord, how long shall I cry and thou wilt not hear? And so he goes on, and then Jehovah speaks back to him. And then he speaks back to Jehovah. So it's a conversation, like the type of conversation, I don't know about you, but when I'm having prayer or when I'm studying or when I'm meditative and just thinking about Jehovah, and he begins to speak to me and I begin to speak to him, and we have a conversation. Now, in this particular conversation, Jehovah is actually telling Habakkuk that things are about to happen in his community, and they're about to be invaded and taken into captivity. And so that's not a very pleasant thing for him. That's not something that he would want to hear. And it's true, when we are in introspection, when we're thinking, sometimes Jehovah, our Father, does reveal things to us that are not pleasant, things that have overtaken us, things that are coming down the path that we need to be mindful of, and bumps in the road that we're going to hit. And it's important to know that when you receive that information, you should write it down. because there is going to be a solution. You need to write the vision. And I think all of us can think of times when, you know what, I knew that something was going to go this way, but I forgot, or I didn't write it down, or I didn't believe it, right? And we could have saved ourselves a lot of harm, or at least a lot of emotional drain, right? Because some things are just going to happen, but you don't have to be emotionally drained and dragged into the pit as you go through the process. And so in the midst of this, what we see is that Jehovah is telling Habakkuk to write the vision and to make it plain. And so when you are wrapping up your day of introspection and getting ready to go into Yom Kippur this evening, I encourage you not just to write the list of the bad things that you think about and then rip them up. Really have a solution, because Jehovah has a solution for you, and you write it down, because even the things that are not so good, if you're aware of it, if you see it, if you go back and review it, you can catch yourself in future patterns. And the idea is to not repeat those patterns, right? But if you don't even have it written down, you might not even notice that it's a pattern in your life. And so that's the beautiful thing. And so we should always be doing introspection, self-awareness, meditation, Psalms 1, Joshua 1:8, Philippians 4:8, whatsoever things are good or pure or lovely, think on those things. All throughout the Bible, my favorite textbook, there are directions and information about how to come into a place of mindfulness of who your creator is. Every breath that you take is him. We are the only entity, living being on the planet that actually has the breath of the creator in us. And so it's no wonder that breathing slowly, focusing on that when you get upset, to take a few deep breaths, because you're drawing your attention back into the one that created you. So have a wonderful, it will be a Sabbath time for Yom Kippur, and it is the most holy day, and we will be fasting, but it is a time, it says, to afflict your souls and to understand. Definitely read Isaiah 58. That's a great place to read about the type of fast that Jehovah calls for. But I want you to remember, of all the things that he has ordained and orchestrated for us to do, Yom Kippur is one day. It's just one day. And that is fascinating to me, because he asks us to keep Sabbath, which is every seventh day, right? So there is something about rest. So honor Yom Kippur, make your time of atonement. Don't make it super religious. Don't get lost in it. It's just one day a year. There are many more things about life, about rest, about moving forward, that our Creator wants us to know. So have a blessed Sabbath, and I'll talk with you soon.